This site can't be reached. Uh-oh. Is it not going live? Oh my. Let me try again. It says we're streaming. Let me check. Hello, in case we are streaming. Good morning. Checking to see if we are going live. I went live earlier. It should be fine. Let's try one more time. Get out of here and try again. Let's see. Good morning, people. I hope we're live. It is another beautiful Thursday, but I don't see that we're showing up. Let's try one more. Try one more. Do, 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 do. Good morning. Good morning, pages. Oh, hello. Looks like we are live. Good morning to you. Welcome to Soulful Illumination Show. I am your Enlightened Enchantress. And I see Leslie let us know that we were live. Hello, Leslie. Thank you for telling me that, but I didn't see that earlier. It's a little bit slow, and I guess I just need to have a little more patience. Love Thursday morning, and I don't know about you, but I have been up since 3:30 a.m. But hey, that's my me time that I had to take. And welcome to the Soulful Illumination Show. I've got a fabulous guest that I'm going to bring on in just a minute today, and welcome to Thursday. We are coming at you from an unknown bunker near Area 51. And hey, if the aliens weren't affecting our energy, it is Zoom or Facebook. You know, there's so many of us that have been lucky to utilize these tools to go live, to come at you, to go around the world and show some love to people. And that's what we're doing today. We're coming at you live so we can share some goodness, some good tips, some tips and tricks on how to get healthy and happy. Let's start with our sponsor today. Today, we're just going with our sponsor, doTERRA, right? And you know what? This is lime. You guys, this is just real aromatherapy. If you know me, you know I love tips, tricks, life hacks, anything simple that I can throw in my bag and take with me. And you know what's great about lime is this is actual lime. It's like shoving probably about 100 limes into one bottle. It's just lime. It's great in your water. And it is, you know what? I'm not going to lie. It's super good in a shot of tequila and making some mixed drinks. But you know what? When you're just hanging out and having fun, it's time to celebrate. You've got to celebrate. Have fun. You can cook with this stuff. You can put it in your water. You know me, I've always got my water with lemon. I've got a little lime in here today to just really pick up that alkaline level. Just balance that acidity, pick up that alkaline, and just thrive and just breathe in the air because you can smell it. It is delicious. Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision yet. I am waiting on that. So whoever gets that, Elon or Bezos, if you get a smell-o-vision, you want to send it on Amazon, hit me up at sabotagesmasher.com because I am ready for smell-o-vision. Yes, you can't tell that I grew up with Willy Wonka. I love it. It is just a good thing right now to be able to wake up and to be in that point of love and that great vibration. I know we have gone through some energy shift last year. We are going through some energy shifts now, but in that Mercury retrograde, what does it do? It makes us go backwards. We want to work it like Ferris Bueller, run it backwards. Maybe the mileage will go away. Maybe I'm dating myself. That's okay. You guys can look it up on YouTube or Amazon. You will find Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he takes his dad's car and they drive around, but then they realize that they kind of did the mileage on there. And you know what? Dad's going to come home and find out that they over exceeded the mileage on the car. And he's probably going to notice, maybe not a mile or two, but I'm sure he's going to notice about 30 miles. And you can't take it back. And that's what Mercury retrograde has done, is it takes us back. It spins us back into that time and space when we were younger, when we need to reflect upon a time, that inner child work and that shadow within us. And you want to get deep down inside and you want to say, hey, what can I do? What's the one thing that I can do today to change my life, to make it better? To either stop doing one little habit or to fine tune it. Just like going to the gym. When you plateau in the gym, why can't you get stronger? Why can't you pick up more weight, right? Sometimes the difference between 25 pounds and 30 pounds feels like a ton. You just can't get that extra 5 pounds to lift it up. And what can we do in our mind? How can we reset our mindset? How can we recognize it and acknowledge it? What is it that we need to do? Do we need to get more water? Do we need to change our nutrition? Is it sleep or is it me time? Like I said earlier, I don't know, maybe you didn't catch it, but I wake up at 3:30 sometimes in the morning. Not because I love waking up early in the morning, but you know what? I like that quiet time, that peace time, that time to just sit alone and just to hear me. I don't have to hear the hustle and bustle of the world just yet. I don't have to hear the traffic. I don't have to hear the neighbors. I love my neighbors, but I want to just hear, what does Nicole have to say? What does my mind have to say? And I challenge you, Mercury retrograde is past and it's shifting, that universe is shifting. Realize, what have we done in the past that we can change and transform in our future that no longer either relates to our business or our mindset or our family, our relationships? What can we change? How can we pivot? And 2020 has been that year where we need to learn to pivot in our business, definitely in our soul level and our frequencies. How can we change? How can we combat from that makes us sad? What are we reflecting? And that's also another thing with the energy changes. What is reflecting to us? When we talk about shadow and inner child, you're reflecting to yourself. A lot of times when you see that same person or you're constantly doing that same, you find yourself in that same predicament and you feel like, oh God, I'm going to sabotage again. It keeps happening to me. Murphy's Law, why does it keep taking place over and over again? You're waking up to that because there's a challenge that you haven't yet faced. There is something within your inner child or your shadow that you haven't quite addressed deep down inside. And understanding and accepting what needs to be changed and how to heal that moving forward will definitely change your mindset. It's been very challenging and nobody's asking you to purge it right away. But let's talk about what comes up. And that brings me to my wonderful guest. She is a powerhouse. She is a great person. She's great filled. She's always wonderful to see. She's got a great smile on her face. And I want to introduce her. I will let her introduce herself. This is Dr. Vicki Coleman today. Is it the anger doctor?
Yes, the anger doctor. Good morning, Nicole and the audience.
Good morning. And how are you today? So glad to have you here.
I am doing very well. I am blessed and I am grateful. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here. And what a better person to have in this moment in time to talk to and talk about our emotions and what's going on around us and how to change our mindset.
Yes, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be a guest on your podcast. And there's so many things we can talk about now, as you indicated. I really appreciated your introduction. I think that we're all experiencing something in response to the pandemic. a wealth of emotions, all types of emotions: fear, anger, sadness, happiness, opportunity. And these are issues that we have to deal with. No one ever thought we would be coming up to 1 year of the pandemic, and just what, 3.5 weeks it will be 1 year. And that is just amazing. And I have seen so many people deal with stress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, among other mental health and psychological and physiological challenges.
Yeah, it's just it's almost like, to me as an energy worker, I've noticed that many of my clients and even friends and family members are dealing with and on an emotional level, uh, kind of that turbulence inside, or that shadow that they haven't dealt with before. And now it kind of just smack right in the face, like, we have to take care of this. This has to be healed. We have to heal our soul, our energy around us, who we see and talk to, because we see people all the time. And now they're on the couch with us. They're at the dinner table with us every night now. You don't have the excuse that I got to go to work.
Yes. And what's interesting, it was so sudden. So we did not have an opportunity to prepare or even think about what is a pandemic. Probably the people who are alive never lived through a pandemic. And so people were searching the internet, what is a pandemic? And I have found that many people did not have the appropriate defense mechanisms and coping skills to deal with the change. It was a major shift, a major change, a shift in our mindset. And that has been the challenge for all of us. And of course, for you and I, as clinicians, I'm a behavioral health clinician, then that presented a lot of different emotions on my side and of healthcare professionals. And the question is, how do we deal with it, and how do we help our clients and patients to cope in a time of change and stress?
Yeah, it's definitely, it. Do you see that people are able to recognize that there's so much going on, or that they're still not addressing it? What's inside, what's going on, or they're just waiting to wake up, maybe even the next day, and think that, oh, we could wish it all away?
I think, Nicole, initially no one thought it would be this long. Many people thought, oh, we'll be home for a couple of weeks or a month. So I believe, in my experience and what I've observed, that initially no one really thought that it was as serious as it is. And many people said, oh, hey, I'll be home a week or two and I can rest, I can kick back, I can learn some new information, maybe skills. And so no one took it as seriously as it has become. And even, I think, the various entities, the government, corporations, the private sector, I think many of us believed it would be over by the summer. And when we realized that was not the case, then it was like a culture shock, a major shift in our mindset. And many now have decided that they're going to have to do something about addressing the issue, the feelings and the emotions and the physiological implications, the conflict. You mentioned that at home we are with the people we live with, and that was not the case before. They with them, but they did not have to see them every day, all day, 24/7. And what has resulted is a lot of conflict. The conflict was probably already there, maybe dormant, but now it's in our face. And so we have to deal with relationships that may not have been as healthy as they could be or should be. Children, dealing with children and family, maybe extended family members. If people are in the sandwich generation, then they have themselves and they have their parents and they have their children. So a lot of emotions, a lot of conflict, a lot of family issues and challenges that needed to be addressed.
And that's huge. And I was hoping, I mean, for me, I would would hope, I know it was hard for me too, having that family home. I take care of family members and I have them at home. And now it's like, you know, oh, wow, I didn't realize how often I was out of the house.
Yes.
One of the good things was there's no traffic out there.
There's no traffic. And I
No
always
traffic.
say, "Yeah, where are the people when I'm riding around? No traffic." Yes.
You can drive around and go wherever. It maybe take 5 minutes that it did take 30. That was a good thing, definitely for me to be able to do that. That challenge had stopped. But, addressing, hey, family members, hey, how do I help my family members overcome it? There was some that, hey, we did see some arguments with other family members, and it's just, wow, hey, can you eat healthy? Can you get outside? Can you get some sunshine? Open your door. And it was so hard for me talking to family members to try and find a way to say, hey, maybe now's a good time to take those supplements.
Yes.
Maybe now is a good time to open the door and get a little sunshine, because you don't have the excuse that you got to get in your car or go anywhere. And that's, I'm for me, having dealt with the depression over my years, and my audience knows that, I have struggled with that, and knowing how wonderful the exercise and the air and getting out of my headspace, what a difference that made for me. And it was just so hard not to try and push people out and say, hey, and we want to do our best to share that with people. And that's another reason I started the show, was to say, hey, maybe I can help other people understand that we're all together in this, that we can stay social.
Yes.
Right? That we can still talk, that we can still send our love, but we don't have to be physically in that one space, though it's a little bit harder. But we have this wonderful thing of technology where we can be with people. We're not quite holographic yet, where we can.
Not yet. We're getting there, I think. Yes. But one of the issues that I've clinically and professionally, I knew this because I've studied it for a long time. But one of the issues and challenges for families is that, first of all, Nicole, they didn't know themselves in terms of self-concept and self-esteem. And secondly, they didn't know their family members, even though they've lived with them. Partners, spouses didn't really know each other. They didn't know their children. Maybe they didn't know their parents or other family members, extended family members, cousins, aunts, uncles. And so then we're all of a sudden immediately thrust together, seeing each other every day, and not knowing oneself and not knowing the others presented a lot of conflict and challenges.
I think it just forces us, in a sense, to face that.
Yes.
And for me personally, hey, if it's right there in front of me, I'm going to address it. I'm going to take care of it. I do the term, sabotage smasher. I want it done.
I love that term,
my,
by the way. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Get it out, right? It's kind of like a detox, or just clean it out, take that trash out, and work with that. Because for so long I kind of dipped my foot in the water to check it out, to see if it was the right temperature. I didn't like it. I left, and then, and I didn't want to deal with it, but I can laugh about it now, because it's like, just do it. Do it for yourself. Try that change. Get to know you so you can get to know your family.
Yes.
Right? And know who you are, and address these issues. It's been a great thing for other people, other family members. We got a dinner table. We got, a home cooked meal, and being able to share that blessing, and how wonderful it is to be together. Because now you got to be with me all the time. Whether you like it or not.
And then what's important, we have to be with others all the time, but probably initially we have to be with ourselves. So I talk about self-concept and self-esteem, as you know, and I examine the model of self-concept and self-esteem that I have examined and modified is based on work by doctors Fitz and Warren, and they look at 6 areas of the self. When we hear the term self-concept and self-esteem, Nicole, often we think of one entity. I hear people talk about they have low self-concept or high self-concept, or low self-esteem or high self-esteem, but they consider it one entity. And what I appreciate about the work of Fitz and Warren is that they've taken that construct and divided it into 6 categories. And let me discuss them briefly.
Yeah, please.
And I've sort of rearranged the order a little bit in terms of my modification. But when I look at self-concept, I look at 6 areas of the self. And the first is personal self. That's who are you as a person, as an individual. Number 2 would be physical self. That's very, very obvious, the physical self. Third would be family self. And of course, the family self concept is very prominent, more prominent now than it was prior to the pandemic. The fourth area would be social. I call it social and community self. Our friends, our colleagues, our community. The fifth area would be academic, work, and professional self concept. And that's our education, our professional background, the jobs, the career. And that, of course, has a direct impact on our financial challenges. And then the sixth and last area would be moral, ethical, spiritual self concept. I think that particular area of self concept, especially the spiritual, has become more prominent since the pandemic because people are asking themselves, and of course, we know that spirituality is not the same as religion, but I define spirituality as my raison d'etre, my reason for being. Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of the pandemic? And what are the repercussions and implications? So those 6 areas, let me just review them briefly. Personal self-concept, physical self-concept, family self-concept, social community self-concept, academic work professional self-concept, and moral, ethical, spiritual self-concept. And so I propose that one way to address the situation we're in now is number 1, know who we are by asking, who am I with respect to those 6 areas of self-concept and self-esteem? And then once we feel comfortable and healthy in terms of who we are, makes it a lot easier to deal with our family, our spouse or partner, our children, extended family members, and of course the community, because what is interesting about the pandemic is that it has affected everyone. It's a global issue. It's not just my home or your home or Las Vegas. It's everywhere. It's everyone. And so that makes it a little more challenging to deal with. Who am I and how am I going to help myself, my family, and my community? And that includes the global community.
Oh, absolutely. That and that's so I love how you know how there's that self-concept wherever you're at.
Yes.
Because we all are a little bit different in different environments.
We are. Yes.
And it's so huge to understand that we all kind of play little roles in different places because it works with that community that we're at. And a
Yes.
lot of times you have a little bit more freedom at home or with your friends than you do it at a work environment. And that kind of keeps that flow. But I think as, through energy work and watching people, on Facebook or through the show here, is to see that people have that concept of a larger community and how they are reflected within that community and how that community, is part of who they are. And everything that we do in a metaphysical level or a soulful level or a spiritual level, how when we uplift ourselves and we take a moment for us, that we can change that energy output in other places. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know,
Of course, one of the terms that you and I and others is a very prominent term now. It was a prominent term prior to the pandemic, but it's taken on more significance, and that's self-care. And then another term would be mindset. So I talk a lot about self-care with my clients and patients because I believe, I know that if we don't take care of ourselves, it's more of a challenge to take care of others, including the community.
oh yeah, you know, that hits home with me. And working with my clients, I mean, you would kind of attract people where we know we've the journey that we've been on. um,
Yeah.
and it's such a beautiful thing to see working out. I didn't go outside, we didn't do too much. And as an adult, you know, even going through the police academy, oh gosh, now I got to run every day. You know, now I got to take a moment and refocus. Now I got to take time to get my mindset focused so I can be heightened and aware. And that's just kind of worked so beautifully in this environment to say, okay, what's your mindset? How healthy are you? What are you doing that wakes you up? You know, what can you do? Add a little bit of water, go to the gym, even just go outside for a walk. And it helps you be more vigilant for you and take care of yourself. And then working with people in your family, that you're able to show up for them, that you're able to mentally be awake, and you're mentally able to be there at a soul level where you're not angry with them, or not, you're not yelling at them, you know, where you know, you're not throwing the pots and pans and everything else at them because you feel so frustrated and you cannot adjust with the situation going on. And I know that you know, that's been a personal moment. And I didn't throw my dishes, I don't want anybody to think that, because I wouldn't break them. But you have moments when you hit an anger spot, and you just become so frustrated, and it's not just the member in the family or your partner, it's more you, because you can't deal with it. And that's such an at a whole different level. I would never wish this upon anybody being in the pandemic, because being at home with the family members you haven't adjusted to, or you're kind of forced into that situation, you feel you're forced into that situation, and be able to deal with you know, that, and recognize what's going on. It's such a different view, almost a 360, to be able to work with that, and talk to people like you, Dr. Vicki, that, you know, hey, these are things you can do. And you're always so pleasant, just having met you on a personal level, just a pleasant person to be with, and your energy is heightened, and you're observant of what's going on and aware, you know. And when people like you, I believe, are accepting and part of the out and about all the time, you're very social. I love that, because that people can see who you are.
That's important because we want you hit a very important point, Nicole. You talked about anger. We are all angry and we have a right to be angry. It's a valid emotion. Anger is a valid emotion. However, I think I have observed more anger during the pandemic because one reason I believe is because we have not experienced anything like this, and many people don't know how to cope. And I also appreciate what you said about how we behave and how others see us. It's important that we model certain behavior in the family system. If we're calm, if we can control our emotions, and if we exhibit that there are appropriate ways to handle conflict, then our family members will see that. It's sort of from us to the universe, and they will see that. And then it's important that as they observe that, that they can model similar behavior to adjust to the pandemic and other situations.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, your environment, you take it wherever you go. So if you're not happy at home or happy with yourself, you take it out. to other places. And I thought for a long time I could just, I could just put a different jacket or change my shirt, wear my hair differently. And because you see that, oh, just, try something different on and maybe accessorize your outfit. You'll feel better. And it's like you're hurting inside. And it's important for people to feel, I love how you share that it's important for people to understand that anger is our emotion. I believe that we're here to feel, to be passionate beings, to feel happy or sad or angry or what have you, and to feel love. At such a strong point. And, we have to kind of go through that gamut to recognize and understand. And as we allow ourselves to do that, we can allow other family members to feel.
Maybe they have wasn't significant. Maybe they have never felt previously. Maybe they don't even understand what's happening with their body from a physiological perspective, not just a psychological perspective, but maybe things are happening because, of course, there's a physiological response to emotions. And so it's very important that we can help them. First of all, we regulate and understand our own behavior, and then we can help others, our family initially, and members of the community understand that we do have options, we have choices, and they don't have to feel badly every day. And there are steps that can be taken.
Oh yeah. And you see when you grow up in that environment and you have that at home, you don't know how to handle it outside. And for so long, and I use myself as an example because I know it's sometimes it's hard for people to admit, and sometimes it's hard for people to see and or recognize. But you want to understand that, if you're at home and everybody's yelling and screaming at each other, you don't know why other people aren't passionate beings on the outside, or what they're covering on the outside in you can feel as an empath, you feel their emotions or their pains. What are you really covering up with a smile? And so, but as an adult now, you can choose to be in those situations and you can choose to change your energy. It's healed. To me, I truly believe that it's helped heal my family.
Oh, absolutely.
Being able to wake up and live life and to feel passion, or to recognize when another family member maybe just needs to be left alone. And they can't quite deal with it, or they don't want to. It's their choice. And, hey, how to recognize to talk to them or approach them. And it's huge to see that in a different, from a different mindset. And see, okay, I get you. I get where you're at or what you're thinking, or, well, maybe I can help them. And so it's definitely this time, I don't know, for me, is being able to watch how that human experience is, and to maybe reach out to people a little bit more than before. And I love to see that, how people are getting outside, or even in the community, how people are helping each other. They can't really go somewhere physically, but they can call somebody on the phone, or they can send out a video, or they can FaceTime somebody, or they can send them a present, send them a little box of chocolate or something, just to make them smile. And there's so many ways that we as humans kind of adapt, right, to different times.
I think we are so fortunate that living in these challenging times, you mentioned it earlier, that we do have the technology that can really facilitate bringing the community together. Can you imagine what this would be like if we didn't have this technology, where we have Zoom or FaceTime or whatever video, and even the texting? And that what I appreciate in terms of conflict resolution and people wanting to address the issues and the challenges that we are using technology for. For example, I just love it when I see, say, for children, and there's a birthday to observe, and so they'll have a Zoom birthday birthday party. And you may remember some of every weekend I post a statement on Facebook. It's the weekend, so let's get this Zoom party started. Because
Yeah.
it's the weekend, but where are we going? We're going nowhere, but we can go to Zoom and get this party started. And I've had some very, very pleasant experiences with Zoom in terms of getting together with family and colleagues, of course. And so we're seeing that a lot. We're seeing more of that. So I believe that as we move through the pandemic, at some level, we are closer together, as you suggest. Maybe not physically, not necessarily face to face, but face to face using the technology.
It's huge because, as you mentioned before, it brings us closer to one another, and maybe to recognize, and to see where we're at, and to take that moment. I know for me, being on camera or having Zoom or Facebook, I have had quicker, stronger connections with people. A lot of virtual summits, but when you go out maybe networking for your business, you don't get a chance to talk to certain people sometimes.
Really, yeah. People think we do, but you talk to a select. Oftentimes, as you know, Nicole, these are the people we already know. We're out networking, but we're in a huddle with the people we already know.
Right, right. And I've been able to talk to people, in Ecuador, or somebody in Germany, and be on a summit. We had people last week, and we had the Heart-Filled Summit, and we had beautiful speakers from India. And we got a moment to talk to each other, or a moment to just even email. And you're not trying to campaign or something, but you're just able to exchange a quick sentence or two to say
To
hello.
connect with someone else.
Yeah, yeah, and people are more apt to open it up.
Yes.
Because they want that connection, and it's a quicker connection. And getting on Facebook, and it wasn't always one of my favorite things to do, just because there was no connection at the time for me. But now it's like, I can respond to people, or I can private message them, or we can get on a live call just like we're doing now, and have that moment where we're really having a conscious connection, an awareness message, something where we're talking from a soul level, instead of just throwing out information. Because we have to be mindful of people's time, be present in the moment, and be with people. And I think it's made, I know, my connection stronger. It's been a lot easier for me, and because people are pressed for time, so they want to make it quick. They want to get to the point.
Yes.
But you don't have to do the fluff. You don't have to
right. We don't, yeah. And of course, because here's one of the challenges that I experienced initially. I've had a Zoom account since it started, as long as I can remember. However, no one ever anticipated that this technology would be used frequently. So most of us are on Zoom at least every day. And initially in March and probably into April and May, Nicole, I would have 2, 3, 4, 5 Zoom conferences a day. Wow. That got to be overwhelming. I coined a term, CTSD, Zoom traumatic stress disorder, because it was just too much. I would sit at the computer literally for hours, hardly getting up to eat or anything or take a break. And it was, I think the first couple of weeks, it was very exciting for most of us. Then after a while, many of us crashed because it was too much. We had to integrate that activity into our lives. And we did a 180. So March 10th or 12th, it was before the pandemic. And then March 14th, 15th, pandemic. And people were saying, oh, wow, it's going to be a short period of time. I'll be home. I'll do this or that. But then it got to be too much. The reality kicked in. And then Zoom and the technology became a challenge, an issue. And so that was how that's a little of my personal response, and how I had to modify my behavior to put myself in check because it was just getting to be too much.
Yeah, it does. But, you know, it's electronics, and you've got all that energy around you, and you can't fight that one. That's a scientific fact there, that it's electronics and it's overwhelming. I grew up in Silicon Valley in the 80s, and they had talked about that. People who spent that much time, you know, back in the day when Pong was invented, when people would get on Atari and they'd start playing the games and they would spend so much time, and it just kind of draws that energy, because we're all made of energy, and that energy's got to be expelled somewhere, and it's got to have some type of exchange. And it's that's why, oh my gosh, you know, I've got, with me, I've always got, you know, I've got crystals, or I've got
got my
incense.
salt. I've got my salt.
Oh, it's huge.
Really into essential oils, and I would consider myself, well, I have subscribed. I think you and your audience may be familiar with the term CAMS, complementary and alternative medicine. That's
Yeah.
really my background and orientation. So I agree 100%. And those activities, those complementary and alternative medicines became more prominent in my life, probably more prominent in your life and others.
And it's huge, because, you know, the salt, the Himalayan salt, for people that don't know, it soaks up those ions, and it kind of is a buffer between that energy. And all crystals, you know, all crystals emanate a certain energy frequency, but that salt lamp, the salt does it. If you have shungite, shungite is really great for EMFs. And so even lava, it helps to kind of soak that up like a sponge for you, so you don't get all that energy coming at you so much, so heavy. And it's a good balance. It's made it such a difference in my life to really realize where these tools go and how they function. And it was hard for me years ago, even to, you know, how much TV or how much screen time I'd have, and be on the computer for so long. For years, I wouldn't even come near the computer because I saw what it did to people. But there's a way to utilize it and to make nice with it. It's a tool of itself. Use it for good and not evil.
Yes, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, you know, and everything has its place, and we'll change our energies through that, and life will change, and we'll learn how to use it, and something easier will go along. And, you know, even though they're up to 5G, if you put it on a necklace, put it in your room, you know, that way you don't have to worry about it. I know that there's a stress and an anxiety, especially with energy workers or anybody now, because we're on the electronics all the time. But don't try to combat it. And I think it just has such a, you know, because in our minds you get it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be on there. There's this scary 5G, and there's all this technology. But at some point we have to say, you know what, I'm going to use it for what it's good for what it's meant to do. And I think that's kind of with anybody, or with anything.
I think one of the issues is that we know theoretically that we have to use it, we're required to use it. However, each generation, 1G, 2G, 3G, each generation or upgrade, I think everyone's a little anxious. Wait a minute, what does this mean? And then, of course, at some point, a 2 or 3G phone won't work. It's just
Right.
not going to work at all, even the 4Gs. And so, at some level, and we know it's better because it is better, but I think the question is, what does it mean for us? How do we integrate new and emerging technologies into our everyday lifestyle? That's really the question. And how do we cope? The other, I guess, the bigger question is change. How do we adapt to change? With respect to those 6 areas of self-concept: personal, physical, family, social, academic, work, career, and moral, ethical, spiritual. How do we adapt, change our lives with respect to change? How do we pivot? What is the mindset? What was the 4G mindset? Now what is the 5G mindset? mindset.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You know, where are you at with it? And just kind of take a step back and detach, right? You know, look at, do you need it? Do you have to have it? Is it going to make your life easier? It's just like kind of in uh, pros and cons, when you're weighing the pros and cons on your journal, you know, and when you're journaling and writing, okay, how is this good for me? How can this enrich my life? How can it empower me?
Yes.
In business, how can it make you profit? Is it necessary? Maybe
That's
it's not even necessary. Maybe it's just the change. And that's hard a little bit too. And I feel sometimes working with clients is just that such a constant change, but it's almost that it's not a constant quick change. It's that we pushed it away for so long that now it's like right here. It's in
front
our
of us.
face, right? You know, like a 2-year-old.
Yes.
It's right in front of us, like, hey, here
Yeah.
I am, like it or not.
Uh-huh. The terrible twos. Maybe that's what we're all going through. I had a little. You may or may not know I'm a wannabe comedian, and so as we approached 2021, I said on January 1 of 2021, we will all be 21. So it's like we're adults, we're growing up, and now we're facing the world. So what does that mean for us in terms of our our individual selves, our families, our community, and globally? What does it mean? And we're all asking that question, what does it mean? And
Hmm.
so there's no simple answer because, of course, it means something slightly different for all of us. And when we're living with people, there has to be some congruence in terms of what does it mean and what are we going to do? Because otherwise, there will be more conflict.
Yeah. You know, and that's a good thing to say, to address what does it mean, because, uh, you know, to me, I don't want to see that conflict or that anger out there. I wouldn't wish it to the world. I would never wish those moments that I had where I was even felt empowered through anger to do something or make a decision, or to force my opinion on other people, you know, in an angry, activated way. In that sense where you're so heightened that you're so hyper vigilant that it's my way or the highway, and I'm going to make the world know how I feel because I felt unheard, or whatever other feeling that other people feel. Is there a way for us to help other people see and sense that, not really force our opinions on people, but help people to dissolve that activated anger that's going on, and that force right now, that healing point right now.
I think the way, first of all, what I like to do, I have many anger anger management clients. And many of them are mandated by the courts, meaning that there was law enforcement involved, or mandated by, for example, I've had many college and university students, university mandated that they get some help prior to returning the following semester. I've had partners, couples say, if you don't get some anger management help, we're breaking up, we're getting a divorce. I've had Fortune 500 corporations contact me and say, we have a franchisee who needs anger management. He's had challenges with not only the employees, but customers, clients. And so I've had private, not-for-profit organizations and other entities, individuals contact me. So one of the things I like to ask my anger management clients is that what I refer to as what are your individual antecedents related to anger. So I help them go back to their childhood. And you mentioned this earlier, Nicole, that oftentimes as a child, because that's where it begins, the family, parents establish, the parents establish how to handle conflict and anger. Now, if they're yelling and screaming, if they're name calling, if there are really major issues related to domestic violence, that is what the child initially learned. Now, of course, we can change that with major interventions, and it should really, I believe, anger management should be mandated at the preschool, from preschool up to the university level. However, it's more of an option, or it's more of, once you get in trouble, now go to anger management. So I think it's very important in terms of how I address anger and anger management, is to help people understand how they handle anger and conflict. That's a major question that I ask. And then from there, we can look at different scenarios or different experiences, and then we can talk about or discuss appropriate interventions.
Right. And it's good to see that people are getting help,
Yes.
right? And is, that there's someone there like you that's out there, and I wish I had it earlier, but I coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yes.
And it's so important. That's why I asked, and I'm so glad you came on the show, because it's important for people to know that there's somebody out there,
Somebody else.
that there's somebody that can help you transform your life and let that go, because it was like for me, it was like getting a divorce. I let that person go.
Yes,
And
I like that reference. Yes, I like that.
I changed the way I looked. My income changed. The people I went at, that I talked to, my whole life changed. And it's such a difference to be able to say, okay, this is the hurt that I have running around with it. And to see people so much right now have to address that. But in the good sense is, if you want to play that, is that people get the chance to see, we all have that in us. We all need to recognize how we're feeling. We all need to understand that maybe there's a hurt inside of us, instead of being in the victim mode all the time, until we explode. And that's nothing I would wish on anybody, but I would love for people to see and find you. Where do people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Dr. Vicki D. Coleman, or my website is Anger Doctors, ANGER, D as in David, R as in Richard.com, or just Google my name, Dr. Vicki D. Coleman, and entities will pop up. So,
They
and
will find you everywhere.
you will find me everywhere. Yes, if you want to find me, you will find me.
So great. We are wrapping it up. It is that time already. Oh my
Can't
gosh.
believe that we're just having so much fun. I love this. I love your format and your style, Nicole. And I miss seeing you. So we've got to either do some more Zoom independently of your show, or we've got to figure out how to get together. I think in a couple of my networking groups, we're starting to meet once a month for lunch or dinner or happy hour, because as humans, we need that human contact. We do.
Oh yeah, virtual hugs.
That's virtual hugs. Yes, this is great. I so appreciate Zoom and the other video conferencing formats. However, at some point, we do have to get together face to face.
We do. We're human. We're meant to touch. We're meant to feel.
High tech, remember the term high tech, high touch.
Yep. That is so true. Thank you so much for being here today. Folks, you know what? Thank you for watching. You can find this show back on Spotify. You can download it on Spotify. Anchor. It's called Anchor, ANCHOR. We are on Spotify and iTunes, also on YouTube. Look for Soulful Illumination. Thank you for sharing your time with us and bringing us into your living rooms or on your phone, however you see it. Have a blessed day. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Nicole, and the audience.